Hi, I'm Amy Mawby, and I'm here at Tyler Arboretum today to talk to you a little bit about flowers. Let's do a little warm-up activity. Picture a flower in your head. Come on. All right. Now, I know there's no way for us to know what everyone was picturing, but I bet you they were different. And that's what's so cool about flowers. There's so much diversity in the flowers that we find in our own home gardens, at Tyler Arboretum, and beyond. We're gonna learn a little bit about 4 different plants today. They happen to all be native to Pennsylvania. And let's learn a little bit about what makes each plant unique and how they flower. Come with me. Do you know what I'm standing with? It is a familiar sight in spring. This is flowering dogwood, but the flowers aren't exactly what you might think. So let's take a closer look. Wow, just look at these flowers. This is why flowering dogwood is such an amazing part of the mid-spring floral show. These are flowering trees, and they are native to Pennsylvania and support a lot of wildlife from both their flowers and their fruits. But let's get a little bit closer to see what we're actually looking at. So each flower, if we can call it that, has 4 white parts and then yellow parts in the center. I say white parts because many of you may think that they're petals, but the white parts are actually bracts. They are modified leaves that help to attract pollinators to the flowers, which are these pieces in the dead center. You can see all their wonderful flower parts sticking out, ready for the pollinators to come and visit. And then that cluster of flowers will hopefully be pollinated and turn into a cluster of red berries later in the year. Songbirds love to visit flowering dogwood to eat the fruits. And what's cool about it is because this is a native plant, the fruits that they produce are perfect for our native songbirds. The fruits are able to slide right down the throats of our native songbirds. We can't really say that about our non-native Coosa dogwoods. So please make sure to plant native dogwoods if you're able. Any guesses as to what this plant is? Lots of leaves at first glance. We've got to get a little bit lower to see the flowers. The next plant that we're going to talk about is Mayapple. You can see that I'm crouched down relatively low. This is a plant that grows about 12 to 18 inches. It's a perennial, so it'll come back every year, and it actually has rhizomes underground, which are like underground stems, and that is how the plant grows and spreads. So you can see that there's a little bit of a colony here, and it makes it more fun to discover. So let's look at the leaves a bit more. So if I were to look at this leaf here, can you see? Or maybe this guy here. So we have one leaf on the top. It almost looks like a shield. If you look at the back, there's the stalk, and it attaches directly to the center of the leaf. And we call that peltate, how that attaches directly to the center of a leaf. And that speaks to the scientific name of Mayapple, which the species is peltatum. So that's coming from peltate, or shield-like, attaching directly to the center of the leaf. So here I have one leaf, one stalk, no flowers. Here I have one leaf, one stalk, no flowers. But here I have 2 leaves and a flower. So come on, let's look a little closer. Mayapple flowers are pretty unique in how they nod underneath the leaves. So you can see that we are underneath, and that beautiful white waxy petals is kind of nodding just right underneath. You might wonder why a flower might want to hide. It's protection from the elements. I'm sure that the leaf kind of canopy here helps protect it in the spring, protects it from rain. But don't worry, the pollinators can still find it. It's pollinated by bumblebees and other long-tongued bees. So another reason that the flower is nodding is kind of giving a nod to who helps to spread its seeds. So when Mayapples are pollinated, their flowers are pollinated, they will produce a fruit, and the fruit will nod down. And we know that one of the woodland creatures that eats this fruit is a ravenous reptile called a box turtle. And box turtles come and they will eat the fruits, and they've found that when the seeds of Mayapple goes through the digestive tract of a box turtle and it comes out on the other end, it actually has a higher germination rate than if the seeds fell on the ground, right off of the plant. So box turtles have a really important role in helping to keep Mayapple populations going. Here's another Mayapple flower that I want to show you. If we zoom in a little bit closer here, you can see that something's a little bit different. This flower has definitely been pollinated, and you can see that there's a green fruit starting to grow. And again, that fruit will continue to grow. It'll kind of hang down, and box turtles and other wildlife love to eat it. What we need to remember about Mayapple, though, is all parts of this plant is very poisonous. So please do not channel your inner box turtle and go munching. It will not end well. Next, we're gonna go look at Jack or Jill. Let's head up this hill and see what we can find. So here we are at our next plant. Right next to me here, you can see I'm on the ground again, so we're looking down low in our woodlands. This is another native plant called Jack-in-the-pulpit. And before I had mentioned we're gonna look at, is it Jack or is it Jill? Let's look at the floral structure and learn a little bit more. So if you can think back to when we looked at the Mayapple, when we looked at one stalk with one leaf, it did not flower. And then we looked at 2 leaves and it had the flower in the axil of those leaves. Unfortunately, that formula doesn't stay the same here for Jack-in-the-pulpit. So when we're looking, let's just kind of dig right in. Don't worry, I'll zoom in, we'll get closer. But right now we have 2 stalks, 2 leaf stalks, 2 leaves, and a flower. But if we dig a little bit deeper, I find 1 leaf with a flower. So I wonder what the difference is. Let's get a little closer and figure it out. So as we can see, again, we have 1 leaf, 2 leaf, and a flower. Over here, we have 1 leaf and a very similar flower. Let's look at the floral structure really quick. So what we have on the outside, if we call this Jack-in-the-pulpit, we have the pulpit, which is actually called the spathe, S-P-A-T-H-E. And the spathe is actually a modified leaf or a bract. It's not a petal. And the spathe covers the spadix. So Jack would be this stalk in here called the spadix. And if we're able to see down in, can you see those kind of darker dots towards the bottom? Those are the actual flowers that are produced on the spadix. So again, Jack would be the spadix, which has the flowers down towards the base. And the pulpit is the spathe, and that is a modified leaf or bract covering to protect. But what I'm here to tell you is what I've been showing you is actually Jill. So female flowers are produced on plants that have 2 leaves. Male flowers are produced on plants that have 1 leaf. and they are very, very similar. It's really challenging to see the difference unless you know about the leaves. So if we can look at the base of the spathe where it comes together right here, can you see how there's kind of a hole? There's an opening. So Jack-in-the-pulpit is pollinated by fungus gnats. They're attracted to the flowers by a kind of slight fungal odor, and their whole game is to lay their eggs on fungus. So they are tricked to go inside and fly all the way down and hopefully lay their eggs. But what they find out pretty quickly is that's not going to happen. And so if you're in a male flower, hopefully that little fungus gnat will get covered in pollen before finding that little hole to exit through. And then we're hoping it buzz, buzz, buzz. Well, fungus gnats probably don't buzz, but they're gonna fly over to this next flower. And this one is a female, as we mentioned. So this is Jill. And if we get pretty close to the bottom of Jill, you'll notice that there really is not a hole or an exit point there. The hope is that the fungus gnat will then make its way down to the base of the spadix, right, that we said has all the flowers. And now that that fungus gnat is covered in pollen, we're hoping that it will kind of thrash around and fly around and get its pollen all over the female flower. And yes, it's trapped in, but that is an advantage for Jill in order to have her flowers pollinated, because the female flowers of Jack-in-the-pulpit will actually produce berries later in the season. Similarly to Mayapple, Jack-in-the-pulpit plants are actually quite toxic as well, so no eating. But something that sounds like we can eat it, peas in the trees? Let's go check it out. Here we are with peas in the trees. What we're talking about is the pea family. What I'm standing in front of is our eastern redbud, and it's in the legume family. Redbuds are a beautiful flowering tree in spring. They're on the smaller side, just like our dogwoods, but check out this color. This is actually a cultivar called Flame, and so the flowers look a little bit different than you'll usually see. They flower before the leaves come out, so you can see how tiny the little leaves are right now. It's been blooming for a little while, and those leaves are starting to push. But what's really unique about this plant is how it flowers. It flowers on the stems, on the branches, and that's a really unique botanical term called cauliflory. So no, I didn't say cauliflower, I said cauliflory. And it's, again, the unique way of blooming off of branches, the trunk of the tree. Pretty cool, right? If the flowers are pollinated, that season they will produce fruits. And the fruits are dry legumes. They look just like pea pods. Thanks for joining me. Hope you learned a little bit more about flowers that you might see here at Tyler and in your own backyard. Spring is a glorious time to get outside and look a little bit closer and smell a little bit closer at the flowers that you might see on your walks. So get out and explore.